Flack Talk with James Canning. The podcast with the inside scoop on journalists from San Diego and across the nation. If you're a communications pro, have a nose for news, or you're just nosy, this is the podcast for you. Now here's your host, James Canning.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Flack Talk. I'm super excited for today's show. We have an LA journalist that was in San Diego, but is now in LA. You hear the baby in the background. We're going to get into all of that. Jacqueline Sarkissian, reporter with KTLA 5. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, of course. Thanks for having me.
You know, I'm really appreciative of the fact that you've made the time to do this. I mean, you know, we're going to talk about your growing family in a little bit. But I got the chance to know you here working in San Diego and county government, and you were like new on the scene. Everyone's like, there's Jacqueline, and she's there at Fox 5, and she's doing all these stories. And then we'd do these morning things, and we'd see you, and you'd always seem really excited to be there. It was always great to work with you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it seemed exciting because honestly, the hardest part working in the mornings is waking up. So I'm glad my tiredness did not come out.
No, it didn't.
Did not catch that.
No,
we there were times I was exhausted.
I'm sure 4:30 in the morning. You gotta do the makeup, you gotta do the stuff. I'm sure you were up at probably like 2:30.
Oh yeah, and then doing that pregnant, it was such a struggle.
Oh man, we're gonna get into some of that. Well, so before we get into the whole career of Jacqueline, I want to ask her a couple of these on the record rapid response questions, and these are just some things to allow our listeners to get in and know you a little bit better.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so Jacqueline, what's your favorite word?
My favorite word? I know I have to answer these quickly, huh?
No, they don't have to be quick. You can take your time. We got all day for you.
Oh my God. Do you guys know a favorite word I say a lot? Mike? Well,
she was calling the peanut gallery there at home to try to figure out who could help. Oh my gosh.
That's ridiculous. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous, and I don't know. Those are your favorite words.
I love saying toodles.
I say
bye, people like toodles.
Oh my gosh. I think I remember you doing that on air. Probably.
Oh yeah, I did say that a few times when it was a fun story, lighthearted. I'd be like, toodles.
Toodles. All right. Folks, she's not like 90 years old. She's a young woman, but toodles is her favorite word. Now we know.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, do you have a secret talent that you could tell us about?
Yes. So you know how most people can do an upside down taco with their tongue?
Mm-hmm.
I can do it downward, and I have not met one person that can do it.
A downward taco tongue thing. Okay. All right.
I can also go with my eyes one in, one out, and I'm double jointed in my elbows, which is really freaky.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's that sounds like that could be like circus material there. If the news thing doesn't ever work out, you go work at the circus or something.
Yeah, totally. If they had someone call out, be like, put me in.
Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Sometimes to unwind, I do like to watch TV shows that don't make me think. So I do watch Real Housewives, but only Orange County or Beverly Hills because when I say relate, it's because I've lived in those two areas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, I know that restaurant, or oh, I've been there. I know that street. I'm familiar with the areas.
Right.
So I only watch those two.
That makes sense. It's like I couldn't get that whole restaurant cleared out when I was trying to go there, but for some reason, every time they go, nobody else is in there, right?
Mm-mm. I know, right? Funny how that happens.
Yeah. So, Jacqueline, I know that with two new kids, you probably are not saying these as many times as maybe you did at one point in your life, but do you have a favorite cuss word?
No, and I actually hate it.
Really?
Yeah. My husband sometimes can do it a lot, and it drives me nuts.
Wow.
I do not like cussing.
Have you ever done it?
Some words are can we pay you to say these words? And I'm like, no.
Oh, wow. You're the first one.
They're just so bad that I'm like, they're disgusting and gross. I will never say it.
That's amazing. You're the first person that we've interviewed that doesn't have a word. So you don't swear.
I mean, if I'm super upset, maybe, but it's either to myself or just like I'll whisper it so it's not so bad.
I got you. All right. Well, look at that. You're ready for motherhood well before
I know, huh?
any other time. Yeah, this makes sense. You know, your kids are.
Even when my husband says in front of like our oldest, he's only 18 months. I'm like, stop it. He's right here. And my husband's like, seriously? I'm like, yes, don't cuss in front of him.
Oh, man. All right. Well, who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Justin Timberlake.
Really? Like Mickey Mouse
He
Club
still
Justin
is.
Timberlake?
No, NSYNC, and then when he went solo.
Even still, right now, have you seen him lately? He's not quite as pretty as he used to be.
I know. I don't think he's... Honestly, if he wasn't Justin and I just saw him on the street, I wouldn't even look twice.
So, folks, that's a little bit about Jacqueline's personality there. You kind of got a little sneak peek. But now we're here to talk about the real stuff. Like, why did you decide you wanted to be a journalist?
So that kind of came a little later. Typically, you figure it out in college, but I had actually graduated and was doing work in the fashion industry, which led me to journalism. I did not enjoy what I was doing working for a stylist. It just was not my thing. So one of my family friends is best friends with a big-time journalist in LA County, and she had been shopping with my mom, who used to work at Nordstrom, and she asked, what's Jacqueline doing these days? And my mom said, well, actually she's doing A, B, and C. She's really unhappy. I think she should do something in news, because when I was at USC, I was one of the song girls, and we do a lot of on-air work, both performance-wise in our uniform, and then also outside of it.
Wait. What's a song girl? For those that don't know?
It's a dance team.
Oh.
It's not someone that sings.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a dance team that we perform at like all the sporting events. I don't know if you've seen a USC football game. There's like the girls in the white uniform with the big arms.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so I did that. And one of the hosts, they were doing this segment called Running with the Pack. And they were featuring every school, which was then the Pac-10. And the one for USC called out sick. So they asked me to fill in. And apparently I did really well. And people thought, okay, this is what you should do. People being my mom.
Yeah.
And so,
Mom always knows.
Seriously, and you don't want to admit that. And so she connected with this anchor lady, and she became one of my mentors. I went back to USC, got involved in their news media class, and they also it was like an extracurricular activity, their like student run news program.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then just did a bunch of internships to like put a reel together to start applying. And one of them being KTLA more than 10 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's basically how I got involved, and I just started really loving it. And it kind of seemed like a natural fit for me, because growing up dancing a lot of live performances, you only get the one shot. If you mess up, you keep going. So it was kind of similar with news. You're doing live shots and broadcasts.
Yeah.
If you mess up, you just keep going. You're kind of used to cameras being on you. So it seemed like a natural fit.
That's cool. So KTLA was like your first internship. Where did you go after that?
After that, so I was interning at KTLA. I was also doing an entertainment internship in Hollywood on the Paramount Studios. And then one of my family friends, who's an anchor here at Channel 11 in LA, she told me about the city of Torrance has a cable station. Okay. And so I started interning there too. And that was really good experience, because even though I didn't love the commute and whatnot, but when they would send me on stories, I'd literally be on stories with people from KTLA or Fox 11, NBC4. So I also made great connections that way.
That's cool. And then didn't you go off to Austin or something like that? Like, so you did all those internships, you got through the school stuff, and then you became like a one-person band, right? Was that in Austin?
I did. Yeah, so that was in Tyler, Texas, which is about 4 hours from Austin. And typically in my industry, you have to start in smaller cities, smaller markets, and work your way up. So my small market was Tyler, Texas. And then I was there for about, I think it was a little under 2 years. And then from there, I went to Austin. And then Austin to San Diego. And then San Diego to LA.
Yeah. So it's full circle. So KTLA is like, are there people there that were there when you interned that are like, Jacqueline, we're so glad to have you back?
Yeah, there's still a lot of people. I mean, LA's the market where once you get there, you really don't leave. And there's people that have been there for decades. And so that's also been really fun because people I've admired and looked up to, now I'm working with them. Yeah.
What, given the fact that you kind of, some might say you had a little bit of an unconventional path, right, toward journalism, and then you found it and loved it. What do you say to young journalism students who want to pursue journalism? Like, what maybe were some lessons you learned or things that they should keep in mind as they pursue their dream?
Well, what I loved is I feel in today's world, a lot of people don't want to put in the work. And maybe if they're graduating from a big school, a very prestigious school, they might think they deserve better.
Yeah.
And a job could be beneath them. But the experience at SC working in their student-run program was the exact thing I was doing in my first job in Tyler. I was shooting the interviews, editing the stories, also writing the scripts, and then towards the end in Tyler, I had to start shooting my own live shots as well.
Wow.
So because you're doing all that hands-on experience and you're in front and behind the camera, it gives you a better appreciation for those people that just do that job, that are the photographers, that only edit work. Because now here I am at KTLA and I appreciate what my photographer does. Whereas if I didn't put in the work and was also a photographer back in the day, I don't think I would appreciate it as much. I would maybe take it for granted. And I also know all the hard work that goes into producing a story and doing a live shot. It's honestly teamwork.
Yeah.
And at KTLA, I worked at the assignment desk as an intern and then after as an employee, where we were responsible for finding the stories, sending them out to the reporter, giving them all the details. So because you worked in all those positions, you understand and you have a better appreciation for them.
Yeah.
Now that I don't want to say just a reporter, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not shooting my own work. I have help. I have people assigning me my stories. And you don't take them for granted. You value them.
Yeah, no, that's a good lesson. I think that you're right. Some people feel entitled, and the reality is knowing all of those things make you a better journalist. But then it also makes you appreciate your coworkers. That's great advice. That's fantastic. Is TV news as glamorous as us on the outside who are watching it think?
No, not at all. I mean, if you, especially being a woman, like the places we go to use the bathroom are very random, especially being morning news.
Yeah.
I mean, several months ago, we were in Calabasas and I had to go so bad. I was like 7 months pregnant and we became friends with a neighbor. And normally I want to do this, but she's like, do you need to use the bathroom? I'm like, yes, please. Because you don't have time to like hop in the news van, find a place to go,
Yeah.
So no, it's definitely not glamorous. I mean, I still do my own hair and makeup.
Yeah.
There are times
there's not a glam team in the back of that truck every time you show up, and they're just not back there like doing all that fancy stuff to make no. One time in Austin, I was rushing. I'm always rushing in the mornings. I didn't have time to finish my makeup. I literally went on air with one eye done. The other eye was nothing. And I was like, you guys, was it obvious? They're like, no, not at all. And I look back at the tape. I'm like, you all lied to me. I looked so bad, like a pirate. And I just put like a patch over my eye. So, oh my gosh.
And then there's times where half my hair is done and I just try to like work it so you can't tell on air, and then I finish the other half in between the live shots. So no, it's not glamorous at all.
Okay, so folks, if you're out there and you're a student, just know, like, no one's going to be, like, serving you champagne and lunch and, you know, having, like, a easy toilet for you to go find. You're going to have to do a little work.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, after your time in journalism, like, what's your favorite kind of story to cover? Do you have a favorite? Are you allowed to have a favorite? I don't know.
Yeah, I have a few favorites. I love, well, of course, the ones that impact someone are important. But I love telling a story or covering a story where my personality can shine. So the more fun, lighthearted stories are really my jam. A couple things that come to mind. I covered the opening in Austin of two Dancing with the Stars professionals. They opened a dance studio. And it was 3 of them. I got to dance with them.
That's cool.
Air, which was like a dream come true. Covering the Dodgers in the World Series when they played the Astros. My station sent me to Houston. And then later the Astros cheated.
Oh, so yeah, that was the big, like,
really won.
Yeah, that was all that banging on the trash can thing, right?
And then what else? I see coming to Austin. That was fun. I got to cover that and talk to the band. Here at KTLA, going Raging Waters. They sent me to test out a new ride. I've gone ziplining. Wow.
What if you weren't adventurous? Like, what if you were afraid? Were you afraid of those things at all? Like the ziplining?
I was freaking out.
Do you think that makes better TV when you're freaking out?
I think so. It was real. You know, I wasn't faking it. Those emotions were real.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. That sounds like it's a fun way to go to work every day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I'm
really fun.
I'm wondering, like, I mean, given all that stuff you were doing, like, you know, you're newish, I say ish, to the mom game here. Like, you mentioned earlier, like, you know, you were pregnant, working, you know. Can you share with our listeners? Because when I met you, I think you were, I don't even know if you were married yet. I feel like you were engaged and like, so the baby thing, like this, like your whole life has kind of changed in the last few years. Talk to us a little bit about being a mom and a journalist and what that's been like, and, you know, that transition or that continuation.
I would say the hardest thing is, so I mostly work mornings before kids, I can come home and don't laugh because I love sleep and be like, okay, I have the whole day to myself now. Yeah. I can do whatever I want. I would take a nap. I'd work out. I just had more time, more free time. Whereas now, when I was working and I'd come home tired, I didn't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, I have someone else to take care of now. I can't take a nap. Yeah. So it's just finding the balance. And even now with 2, it's like give or take. Okay, what's like really important? And it's just finding the balance and juggling everything, because they tell you to, like, oh, when the baby sleeps, you sleep. But then it's, you got to do the laundry, the dishes, and other things that you've been putting off. Yeah. So it's really just juggling it all. And, I mean, it's such a fun chapter in my life, but it's obviously exhausting, but it's very rewarding. Yeah. And that's probably the hardest part. Yeah.
So you have 2, I think you said they're like 18 months apart, right? Or no,
16.
16 months.
16. Yes.
16 months. I mean, that is a balancing act. I mean, do you think that, like, I mean, you got family back there, you're like, you got the support of your husband, all that kind of stuff. Do you think, like, being a mother, being, you know, someone with a family, and being a journalist, like, do you look at the news differently? Do you look at some of the stories that come your way differently now that there's other lives that you affect every day in your own home?
Not really, because I kind of always kept that same approach when I was in San Diego. Mm-hmm. Especially, there would be some... Sorry.
No, that's good. That's life right now. I love it.
You want to be on? Just kidding. Okay. I loved the people I worked with in San Diego, and there was always, because I was really the only morning news reporter, it was always a conversation. Okay, this is what we're thinking. What do you think?
Yeah.
Of course, there's some stories that are must covers, but those really are never controversial.
Right.
It could, it's like opening day for the Padres. Like, that's a must cover, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But some other stories that were more controversial, and I didn't always believe in it, I would say something.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking from that other person's perspective.
Yeah. No, that's right. And I think that's what some people don't recognize about what you all have to do in the news business, right? Like there's kind of a switch. You go into a story and you sometimes have to switch off the emotion and then, to do the story, even though it's a difficult story. But it's that behind the scenes conversation that you have with your bosses about whether this really matters to people, that determines what gets on air anyways, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that being like, what's the difference between being in LA and being in San Diego in terms of doing the news?
Probably just the areas we cover.
Yeah.
Because in the area in KTLA, I mean, it's the second biggest market in the country. So you're not just covering LA County, it's Ventura County, San Bernardino, Orange County. There's just so many. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
So it just, I mean, one morning I could be in Ventura, and the other I can be in the city of Orange, which is 5 minutes from my parents' house. So
Yeah.
You just never know.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a huge demographic. Huge.
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, the people think San Diego's big, but this is like, it's not, in comparison to LA, it's not as big. And so I hear you on that, especially hitting deadlines and trying to make sure that if you got to turn more than one story in a day, I mean, it's got to be tough. So I get that.
Yeah.
Look,
And it's also great because since KTLA is so big, you have a lot more resources. Whereas, I mean, if you're covering a story, you may be the first of 3 reporters that day covering it. So a lot of times I'm the morning reporter and I'm only working for the morning show.
Got it. Okay.
Whereas maybe before it was like you need to, I mean, sometimes I have to leave something for the later shows, but there's almost always someone taking it over.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Jacqueline,
And just a lot more news happens.
You think so? Really?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I was surprised in San Diego, which is a good thing. There wasn't as much breaking news as I would expect. Because San Diego's still quite large.
Yeah. Breaking news. I mean, it's I guess so, right? I mean, like LA, there's just, can I ask this question? Like, is there more, I feel like there's, like when I was in Detroit, news seemed to cover a lot more crime in Detroit, and then here in San Diego, I don't feel like there's a lot of crime coverage. Is there more crime coverage in LA than compared?
So because there's just also a lot more crime happening, and they're like crazy stories. I mean, just this week, the story of the poor woman riding the metro gets stabbed and dies.
Oh my gosh!
Like. You don't hear a lot of that happening in San Diego.
No, not to the same degree, same level.
And I want to think this suspect, hold on. Oh, it's fine. There was and there's been a couple stories that have happened in LA, big ones more recently, and the suspects are found in San Diego.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
People are coming here to hide out.
I know.
Well, be careful, San Diegans and LA. LAians? What are LA people called?
Los Angelans?
Los Angelinos? Angelinos.
Yes.
Be careful out there, Angelinos.
Totally.
So, Jacqueline, I mean, you really love what you do, but if you could trade places with somebody for a day, who would it be and why?
It would probably be someone in my industry, but just like big time. So I would say I love the chemistry between Hoda and Jenna Bush. And I love that they have a talk show and they just like have fun with it. Or sometimes there's like talk shows that I listen to and they have no filter and they just say whatever they want. And sometimes I envy that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in my industry, you have to be so careful
Yeah.
on what you say or do and post and all of that. So sometimes I envy those that have the same, like a bigger platform than I do, but they're so honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't get in trouble for it. You know what I mean? Like, you watch them because they're like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would you want to, I mean, so you switch for a day. Would you ever want to be that? Is that a goal? Like, you're striving to be that one day?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it just depends. Like, I know often those positions too, you have to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if I see us like living in New York and stuff like that.
Right. Right. Well, it's a big market. LA is such a big market, though. You never know. Like, we could end up with like, get Jacqueline's opinion show.
Yeah.
Well, Jacqueline,
Definitely.
I got a couple more questions for you before we wrap up here.
Okay.
I'm wondering if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
What would I want God to say to me?
Yeah.
Okay, so as a Christian, I do believe heaven exists. I would just want him to be proud of the person I was.
Yeah. So
I know that's very vague.
No, I get it, though. Like, you want God to tell you that they're very proud. Well, I mean, I'm going to throw another one in here because, like, speaking of pride, I mean, like, part of what I remember about you being here, and I'm assuming it still carries over there in LA, you're Armenian, and you had a real pride in that, in your Armenian background and community, right? I mean, like, that's, I'm sure that contributes to what you would want God to think that, he's proud of you for.
Yes,
all the work you've done
definitely.
in that community.
Yeah, that's another good thing being back in LA is that there's so many Armenians here, and it's really neat to represent them.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That is awesome. Is there anything else you'd love to share or say with our Flack Talk listeners about your career, about the work you've done, your time in San Diego, anything, before we wrap up the show?
Probably just to work hard and don't give up. Like, if you really want something, oftentimes for me, I didn't get it the first time around. I had to work at it. And so just to persevere and be persistent. If you really want something, go for it. And a lot of people get intimidated too by the higher ups. I don't. Like, I thrive off of that in terms of like, okay, this week I'm going to like email so-and-so and get some feedback, or even my interning days, like working alongside people I really admired. Of course, it's intimidating to go up to them and get feedback and whatnot, but you're not going to grow if you don't. And they could have really good advice for you.
Jacqueline, that's great advice for folks. I really appreciate you sharing that and being on Flack Talk.
Thanks for having me.
If you liked Flack Talk and want to learn more about your favorite muckrakers and newsbreakers, please hit the subscribe button or visit flacktalk.com. New Flack Talk episodes with James Canning air every other Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts.